Alright, so I've been hearing a lot of hoopla about this lately, right? Where everyone gets their panties in a bunch. Anyone even tell me what this is? What is this? What is this image evocative of? What is this representing? Anyone? Anyone want to answer? Allow me to demonstrate. This. Bam. All right, here we go. You see that right there? Bam, 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 bam. And the shape, right? And then right here, what do we have? Bam, 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 right to Polaris. One of the most important things in the entirety of existence, the pole star. I wonder what this represents. It's almost like these are where we got the shape for the number 7 and the letter F and G and P and B and D and Q. Speaking of, no one seems to like, there's so much argument over the whole mythos of the unicorn. I wonder what the unicorn could possibly be representing. Sorry, I accidentally ended the video. Point being, this is very clearly a unicorn from profile. Yes, I think we can all agree on that. And the question is why? And what is the significance of same? Well, to elaborate, the pole star, one of the most important places in all of existence, one of the most important things in all of existence rather than places, perhaps, is symbolized by the horn of the unicorn. Unicorn's horn is Polaris, the pole star, which is where we ultimately all, that's how we get back down to this place and then back up to God. I mean, we're always with God, but you know what I mean. It is where the soul descends through the pole star and the moon to Earth and then back through up to the heavens, right? Regardless. So then if this is all good, and this is also where they get the shape of the swastika from. It's literally just 4 of the dipper going around the pole star. It's just a dipper going around the pole star throughout the year is all the swastikas. It's a polar symbol. Yeah. Don't think I would want me to shout them out on a channel like this, but Symbolic Studies has a lot of good content on that. Okay, but the significance, why did the Nazis co-opt this then? Well, this is a mindfuck, right? So the Nazis were friends with the church, who were also friends with the bankers, who the Nazis allegedly hated and were trying to exterminate. That doesn't add up. It doesn't fucking add up. At all. So, the Nazis put this is their salute and put the swastika on their flag because what these things are the symbols of the church, the Pope, the so-called Pope, and his bullshit church, and all their so-called Jews, right? And their so-called Nazis. Not saying the rank and file knew this, but like the upper echelon, they're all in on it together. And this symbol, the symbol of the pole star, of fecundity, the swastika, and these are their symbols of their sworn enemies, who they have attempted to erase from existence. The people who are actually God's chosen people. Yeah, that makes sense. The people, you can call these the people of the dawn, right? The people of Amber. Now, Amber is located where? Well, hell is at the North Pole, right? Hell is at the North Pole. The North Pole relates to the head of the planet, the top of the planet, the head. This is where everybody originally came from when Appa, a monkey, begot the twins, Adam and Eve, Frey and Freya, on a goat. Hence where Frey and Freya get their last name Bach from. Bach means goat, and Frey means seed, so he's from the goat, essentially. Technically, he'd be the seed of the monkey, but he's from the goat, so he's of the seed or line of the goat. To digress, though, human race spread out from here. Anyone knows the Bach Saga will know some of the various things they practiced. That was to get the species to a point where they no longer needed to do those things. However, people kept doing some of these certain things, and that brought about what they call the first Ragnarok. Now I'm getting off track, so I'll get back on topic. Eventually, a man fled from the frozen wasteland that had become the original North Pole of Helsinki. He fled from this place, following the Gulf Stream, which is what kept them alive, and they're surrounded by ice, which bleached them white and blonde, right? A man left this place and followed the Gulf Stream to the South Pole, which relates to Scorpio, Libra, and Virgo. This is the Aslan, or the Atlant, or Atlantis. Atlantis, literally, At is 8, so Scorpio. Lant, or land, are the same word, so the 8 land, so the scorpionic land, and then Is is a suffix meaning divine or heavenly. So the divine or heavenly 8 land, or scorpionic land. And this is, the South Pole is in the Gulf of Mexico. What do you know? What do you know? So, a group of people was then proliferated from this point by this man. And they adopted it as their symbol because this man proliferated them with an incarnation of the pole star and the polar constellations. They proliferated a race that would then be God's chosen people, so to speak. The people of Israel, yes? Isra is the same as Isla, which is isle, and then El is the sun, so the island of the sun. That sound like this fucking desert-ass place in the Middle East, which, yes, sunny, but does that sound like where the sun wants to live? Where the sun is happy? No. Where is the sun happy? In the Gulf. America. And off the coast of Florida are and were the island of the sun, or Israel. This is also Israel, and Israel is what a line, so the line of East, which is heavenly divine God. And then Real means line, but also like true or genuine. So the people of the true God are the genuine God, or the true people of God are the genuine people of God. So to digress, these people eventually found their being the people of God. They prospered and spread all over the world. Now, eventually, the people who they had originally spawned from in the north, some of them didn't like this. In fact, some of them didn't like existence at all. You see people argue about, they argue about the whole thing, about God and whatnot, but if existence was an event, which is what science, science and science are the same word. It's because science are the true science. A lot of this modern, quote-unquote, science is very unscientific. It's very whack and divorced from reality. So the fact of the matter, they try to say it's an event, and that, you better watch out for when the event is, the aftershocks of the event have essentially finished, and then, time's up. Whereas that doesn't make any sense logically as far as being congruent with what we can observe in our reality. And as above, so below, everything's a macrocosm and microcosm of each other and whatnot. So it's very self-evident that existence is a continual process. In fact, it's a process of continual growth. It's a cycle, a process of continual growth. So you can't just have an event that happens and then shit happens, right? So there's nothingness, and now stick with me on this. The nothingness demands existence or somethingness. But this couldn't have happened, nothingness, and then from that comes existence or somethingness. So there's nothingness and somethingness existing all at once. And then in that first instance, so to speak, the somethingness has a choice to either expend itself into the nothingness, go away into the nothingness, or to hold to itself, thus creating a friction. I forget exactly what language, but friction essentially translates to growth, which makes sense because things grow through contact or friction. Stimulation can lead to growth. Stimulation leads to growth, right? So friction equals growth. Through this friction, through this existing with versus going away into, God held the line, so to speak. And thus, all of existence comes from there. And then existence plays out. Bam, bam, bam. And we see that God made man eventually, over time, through cycles and processes, in his image, to be the kind of creature that, rather than going away into the nothingness, we're the only creature that can do this, rather than going away into the nothingness, we can choose to hold the line, so to speak, and thus grow and expand, because if you pay close enough attention and think clearly enough, rather than necessarily deeply enough, but if you're able to think deeply and clearly, a rare combination, it's abundantly clear that the principle of expansion is underlied by the principle of conservation, whereas the principle of expenditure goes along with the principle of contraction. You conserve, you expand. You expend, you contract. You contract, you consume. Then after you consume, there's nothing. Versus conservation leads to expansion. Leads to actualization or utilization. Right? So God conserved, and so expanded. And so we have existence. And people are essentially the physical incarnation. It's not just people, I mean, incarnate is all sorts of shit, but essentially the incarnations, the various faces of God, i.e. in the heavens. Now, this is not the retarded materialistic, oh, you all come from stardust, it's nothingness. No. The light. So we're essentially the heavens, given the chance to incarnate physically on earth and experience with our Father in a unique way. For instance, the different celestial bodies specifically incarnate, the various signs of the Zodiac incarnate, and then beyond that, I would assume that the specific parts that make up the specific parts of the Zodiac incarnate, and then from there, you get everyone else. But at the highest, as in closest to God levels, you have the celestial bodies and the signs themselves and their incarnations. To digress, the man who fled from the hell that became the north when they caused the first Ragnarok by not progressing towards being like God and holding the line instead of going away into the nothingness, right? I.e. ejaculating. It's no-go. Orgasm, ejaculation, no-go. And now I know the fucking Gnostics are retarded nihilistic and they're like, oh, that is worldly shit. Do not do that. You must ascend out of the matrix. That is fucking retarded. That is ass backwards. The fact is, this is a process of continual growth. And any process of continual growth is built on the same principles that all of them are, which is that conservation leads to expansion, leads to utilization, versus choosing expenditure, which leads to contraction. The opponent expands, I contract. You know? The opponent contracts, I expand. In this same vein to a degree. When you conserve, you expand, and when you expend, you contract. And expansion can lead to utilization, whereas contraction will just lead to consumption, rather than utilization. And see, the difference between the two takes sight or perception. You see, when people talk about sight or perception, people's sight or perception capabilities, they're not talking strictly the seeing, as in, oh, I see this book right in front of me that the phone's resting on. or I see this phone. It's perspective, that kind of perception insight. To see patterns and ways of doing things. To adapt based on what's happening in a manner that is beneficial and behooves him. To essentially have a perception that is closer to that of God's, as opposed to as opposed to one which is further from God's. So to digress, an incarnation of Saturn fled from that place and proliferated with an incarnation of the polar constellations in the pole star. He proliferated a race that was the people of the dawn, right, or of the pole star. Yes, because the pole star is heavily related to the dawn. And the word for pole star, if you go to the Scandinavian languages, is essentially ote or ota. Now this also means gray or dawn. This means dawn/early morning as well as gray, and it refers to the pole star. Otava is the pole star, and ota is dawn. And ota is also dawn or early morning, and then dawn or early morning is also greening, which is gray. As well as ota or at, relating to 8, which also relates to gray. And for reference, essentially every word and name can be broken down to back down into gray, and that's because gray equals Frey, which is seed. So it all comes back down to gray and to seed and to God. And what's great is all these things mean family, house, nature of. And then gray means like king or the light, right? So of the nature or family or house of the king or the light. So that would be God the Father in heaven, whose most unobstructed view, to paraphrase numerous people, the most unobstructed view we have of same is of the sun. And then the sun is what color? The sun is white. The sun is white. Yes. The sun and his high priest are referred to as Nika. That's why, like nickel, right? A nickel is 5. 5 is Leo. Leo relates to the sun. And nickel is what? It's a whitish color, right? This is also Mika, our maker. So maker, who made you? God. And if you look at the heavens and the celestial bodies and whatnot, it becomes very obvious that God is, the closest view we have to the face of God is a white one. So Nika means white. Nigger means white. Nigger is nickel, same word, or maker. This means white. To break it down further, nigger, right? Ni. It means progeny or child of. It can also mean proximity. Okay, what is gur? Gur is the pole or the spear. Gur means spear, so it's the spear of the pole. Okay, like spears of light coming from the sun, or spears of light coming from the other celestial bodies, right? They're likened unto spears, as are the poles. So the children of the pole are the spear. And I would say that the South Pole specifically, so the Amberites, who are white, they're descended from Saturn, an incarnation of Saturn, who was that white man who fled from the North Pole. To digress, the children of the pole, and I think the South Pole relates more to the concept of a pole or a spear than the North Pole, because the South Pole would relate to the genitals, so Scorpio of the planet, right? This would relate to the spear, or the phallus. So the people who are in proximity to the pole, as in the South Pole, would be my takeaway. Or it's the people who are the children of the pole, so the South Pole. This could also, and this does also rather in a sense refer to the spear as in Polaris, right? The tip of the unicorn's horn, or the tip of the spear. So, and it was an incarnation of Sam with whom Saturn fathered the line that would rule this place and proliferate through the entire world eventually. So to digress, these people eventually spread everywhere essentially, and then over time, the anti-existence faction, the people who want God to have gone away in the beginning versus holding the line, and hence here we are. They want an end to the process of continual growth. They wish it was an event, which is why that's what they preach to everybody. That's why they try to teach that to every kid and teach them that the earth is trying to pull them down when it's not. The earth is only trying to set you up. The earth is not pulling anyone down. Think about it logically. I tried to get along with the other viewpoints for a while, but whenever I would logically think about it, gravity doesn't make sense. Space travel doesn't make sense. I was complaining about space travel since I was 3. I was watching Star Wars for the umpteenth time, and I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. I like this, but that doesn't make any sense, and it's pissing me off. I was told it'll make sense when you're older, and it does make sense. What makes sense is that it doesn't make sense. So the same thing that made sense then. And then I don't know. I mean, if you just look around, it's very obvious that we're on a court, so to speak, not a ball. Look, just do this, okay? Take a basketball, hold it in your hand. Now imagine you're existing on the basketball. As being on the basketball. Would you be existing in 3D or 2.5D, like a Mortal Kombat character or a Street Fighter character? Whereas reality is 3D, like Soul Calibur or Tekken, right? And you can't play. Try to imagine you're existing on that basketball. Now try to imagine people existing on that basketball playing basketball. It doesn't really work, does it? You don't play ball on a ball. You play ball on a court. You're on a court or a plane, okay? It's abundantly clear, especially if you just consider the angles of the clouds in the sky, too. And anyone who's into throwing things, when I was little, I was really into throwing shit. And how my angles for throwing shit would be based on the idea that the earth was flat. And as I started to go away from this, I got worse at throwing. What was I talking about? Amber, sun, moon, pulsar. Oh yeah, so since these are the children of the pole star, right? Everyone has to a sense, but especially these people who Saturn and the incarnation of the pole star proliferated, who then spread everywhere, right? They're people, blah, 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 blah. So their descendants spoke what we would nowadays call Arabic, right? Nowadays, all you have left is Middle Easterners speaking that, who have been largely, and they have their own issues, as well as the fact that they've been fed a lot of bullshit religious texts, as has pretty much everyone. But regardless, if you look at like I don't know if you guys have ever done this, but the relics of Russia, for instance, and like the Holy Roman Empire. A guy wrote books on this, but I was lucky enough to come across some of this stuff on iFunny of all places, actually, when I was really little, and on iFunny. Some of these relics. And I think in one of my history books, too, there was one of the relics. But either way, these relics are all in fucking Arabic writing. Can you explain to me why they have Arabic writing, all the most important artifacts, to the European peoples? Why? Why? It doesn't make any sense. Why would you? Why and how? There's no actual cogent argument for Sam. The fact of the matter is, there was a large population speaking what we would now call Arabic, and we now associate with the Middle East, who coincidentally dress as if they're living in Northern Europe. But to digress, the whole point, the whole point of the Nazi shit, why they co-opted this and the swastika, is because these are the symbols of the ancestors of the people they did actually genocide. They weren't genociding the bankers, the so-called Jews. They were genociding the Jew is you, right? You. That means noble in Greek. I'm not talking about these fucking bankers with their shitty genetics and their disgusting noses and their disgusting outlooks on life, which is proof that they're shitty genetically and soul-wise, and they're going to be wiped from the face of the earth. Regardless, I'm talking about the noble people from Amber, the Negers. Yes, the people of the spear. The white people who are of merit, who aren't trying to fucking rape and gyp everybody. To digress, the quote-unquote Jews that were killed during World War II, we're talking about the rural farmers. That was the whole point of both world wars, frankly, was to kill large portions of these rural communities that were passing down their oral traditions. And then you force anyone who survives into the city and re-education. That's the whole point. So there's the quote-unquote Jews they killed. The quote-unquote Jews that were killed are the enemies of the people that now hide behind that fact and call themselves Jews now. At least for the most part. I'm sure they co-opted some of the actual people they fucked with into their groups. They're trying to pretend to be them. They're trying to pretend to be them to defame them. That's my whole point. That's why they take the swastika and say it's about hatred and killing quote-unquote Jews, when the quote-unquote Jews are the ones doing it to kill the real Jews, who really embody the fecundity of the swastika and all the good things that go with it. Likewise with this symbol. What do you know? It's 4 of those makes a swastika. Crazy, it's almost like it's a pole star. Crazy, it's almost like these people are the ones who hate the people of the pole star and want them removed from history. Just like they want knowledge of the high priest of the sun and the sun's greatness removed from history. That's why they try to make Nika a bad word that people can say they want it gone from history. Because they hate Nika or Nika. As far as people talking about history and shit, there are a few people over the years who have actually had the balls to talk about this, and they have to talk through it very veilingly. One of the ballsiest motherfuckers on the planet happens to be Oda, author of One Piece. One Piece is literally nothing but astrological caricatures, philosophy, and covered up information on history. To the reader with the eyes to see, or the viewer with the eyes to see. It's crazy. And I know who he's a reincarnation of as well. But to digress, yeah, man. These so-called Israelis are fucked. The true you or noble people. It is their era, it's the age of Aquarius. Aquarius relates to the pattern and the founding of the pattern, and to Appa, the monkey, who fathered everybody. Through fathering Fry and Freya onto the Gotha Spock. Either way, yeah, maybe don't get your panties in a bunch over this shit and the swastika. Maybe don't do that, because you probably don't even know what you're talking about. These are symbols of fecundity and of people who want to spread positivity through the world, not of the quote-unquote Nazis and the quote-unquote church, even though there's no one who hates, there's no one in existence who hates Jesus Christ more than the Pope and all these other most upper echelon people of the so-called Jews and the church, and probably the Muslim faith too. And all of these fucking countries, all the highest up people, I don't know how many of these fucking high up people in countries they bring in on the whole shit, but whoever the highest tier, so to speak, these are really the bottom of the bottom, the lowest fucking most garbage piss tier, right? But the quote-unquote highest level people running shit, that's what they don't want to talk about. They want it gone forever. They want to cover it over, but it's impossible. It's impossible to do, because the truth is just simply there, and it's the era in which the truth is coming back. So yeah, Elon, I don't know if Elon knows the truth behind any of this shit. If he does, he's working with the anti-existence faggots like the Pope. Fuck him. If not, and he's doing it for the real people of this and of the swastika. He wants to get back at the so-called Jews for attempting to genocide and impersonate this most noble people. Attempting to rob and fuck with everybody, frankly. Oh yeah, you want more sunset? Either way, if he's trying to do good, then good for him. If he's not, then fuck him. I'll curb stomp him to death. Regardless, anyone who's anti-existence, well, I hope you like that philosophy. To digress, what was I going to talk about? Oh, there was something that came up. There was something. What was it? I don't remember. Well, regardless, I guess I'll just leave you guys with this. The zodiacal sign of Cancer, and if you study the zodiac, you'll see why makes sense in this case. The zodiacal sign of Cancer, his physical incarnations, one of them was so-called Jesus or Jesus. That's why you hear people refer to Jesus. I think it was Saint Augustine or Augustine or someone referred to Jesus as a good beetle. Now I know not if he knew exactly what he meant by that to the fullest degree or not, but yes, Jesus is a good beetle. And then there was a naturalist or someone who studies insects or whatever. It was some sort of guy who was quoted as, what can you tell from your study of nature? And he's like, God has an especial fondness for beetles. Or rather, he was some high level, one of these fucking retarded faggot ass secret societies. He knew what he was talking about. He was trying to like be sly, think he's funny. Or if that's just his honest answer, that is the truth. God is especially predisposed towards beetles. God loves beetles. Beetles are ruled by the sign of Cancer. Trying to think if there's any other incarnations I should give away. No, instead I'll just recommend anyone wants to hear more about Amber history or see for yourself. You can pretty much watch anything. I would recommend studying astrology. The only good resources for that I can give, especially, would be Robert Phoenix in Old World, Florida. Not that they want shout outs from me, especially on a video like this, but yeah, astrology is reflective of, and all things reflect it. As this is a manifestation of the process of continual growth, which is God. You can think of the zodiac and the celestial bodies as one removed from God, and then everything else as another thing removed from God. And I would include the earth in the one thing removed from God category too. And then, yeah, everything else is essentially one more removed. And then you have these things that are one removed incarnating in the one more removed sense, so as to experience that with God. Because that's what God wants. People are like, oh, what's the purpose of being here? The purpose is of being here. It's a process of continual growth. The point is to follow your bliss, i.e., do as God would do. However much you try to trick yourself, however much other things may try to trick you, at the end of the day, everyone is themselves, but they are ultimately of a nature of God. So, just follow your bliss and truly try to understand what that means to you. That's not going to mean material, like how much can I fuck or how much can I eat or how much money specifically can I make just for the sake of making money to like lord it over people or something. It's about doing and spreading things that promote expansion and utilization versus consumption and contraction, leading to, expenditure and contraction leading to consumption and nothingness, which is what the anti-existence, the so-called Jews, the so-called church, the so-called Pope, that's what they want. It's not going to happen. It's never going to happen. Never in a million years. Never ever in any amount of time, because God is God, and thus God cannot lose. And therefore, whatever machinations need to play out here in order for God to not lose will occur. So, any of you anti-existence fuckers watching this, you will never triumph. You call yourselves Lord over us, I say weep. To paraphrase, weep. Go fuck yourself. You're all already dead. You're all already dead. Any other good people, God bless you. Hopefully we can talk more.